Hello, so my presentation is on alcohol and its effects on the human body. It can be commonly misinterpreted that the culturally accepted beverage is not a drug due to its liquidated form and accessibility. A person is more likely to associate the word drug to substances like pills, powders, or crystals. Nevertheless, that is incorrect. Alcohol is one of the most dangerous and the most desensitized substances a person could have used. In accordance to the New South Wales State Library, psychoactive drugs affect an individual's state of mentality, their behavior, and feelings, all in which alcohol has been found guilty of in multiple worldwide cases. In addition, psychoactive drugs have three different categories: depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens. Alcohol is a depressant, which is a substance that causes a decrease in the central nervous activity, environmental awareness, and internal bodily functions, including the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. When alcohol enters the body orally, it goes down like any other beverage. The body believes that it is nutrition, so it wants to send the alcohol everywhere. Except this certain substance can easily do harm to the consumer's biological functions. When in the digestive tract, the alcohol content takes about 30 to 2 hours until it is fully absorbed into the bloodstream that connects to all major organs, like the heart, lungs, and liver. On that note, alcohol's effect on the neurological perspective is quite complex. In order to fully understand, one must be familiar with GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that stops the attached neuron from producing any reactions. When drinking alcohol, the presence of GABA decreases dramatically, enough for the individual to become less verbally filtered and more talkative. But due to alcohol's wide impact on the body, it expands the symptoms to a cognitive level, including the decrease of serotonin, which impacts mood and cravings, and of the glutamate system, which helps send neurons into the synapse. The glutamate is responsible mainly for the retaining of information and ability to learn new concepts. With this shut down while drinking alcohol, it can cause the individual to easily forget a large portion of their intoxicated experience. Unfortunately, this rise in dopamine, pleasure, and relaxation increases the chances for the person to drink on another occasion. This beginning causes the brain to associate some activities to drinking, such as watching sports, having dinner, or after work, which is the start to a reward system, otherwise known as classical conditioning. To briefly summarize the neurological impact alcohol has on the brain, the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system in the cerebral cortex are the most predominantly dampened areas, especially for short-term effects. This use of gamma and glutamate misleads the drinker to believing everything's okay and that there are no problems to worry about. In essence, it slows this thought process down enough to maintain the high. As for the limbic system, the emotions are still fiery and alive. Sexual desires, rage, and depression are the most common emotions among alcohol abusers due to the lack of proper thinking. In addition, the five senses become less informative and less reliable. As for the cerebellum, it is responsible for the motor movements the body is capable of, but under alcohol's influence, it may lead the individual to have an off-balance movement. Nearby the cerebellum is the hypothalamus, which happens to increase sexual arousal. This is considered to be a dangerous aspect since many non-consensual encounters include intoxication. Lastly, the medulla, which controls the automatic activity in the body, is slowed down. The combination of a slower breathing cycle, lower body temperature, and rise of drowsiness could be deadly. That's why it is vital that no one under the influence drives a vehicle or any operative mechanism. The basic functions of a human being are depleted, thus leaving the individual to take up the characteristics of a sexually aroused zombie. As for the long-term effects, first and foremost, when an individual treats alcohol like an ordinary drink and chronically consumes it a concerning amount of times, they are considered to be an alcoholic. The most common bodily damage alcohol can achieve is to attract liver diseases, pancreatitis, and brain loss that is severe enough to dramatically reduce the overall weight and size of the brain. As for liver diseases, here's a simple infographic about the cycle an alcoholic liver may go through. As each stage goes by, it gets more abnormally swollen with bubble-like fixations on it. Notice the drastic discoloration as well. Although most stages of liver and pancreas damage can be treated through transplants and lifestyle changes, The brain injuries cannot be restored. Speaking of lifestyle changes, some individuals wish to stop their alcoholic tracks before they escalate. Unfortunately, it is not as simple as it may seem. Individuals may undergo terrible experiences with anxiety, hallucinations, body tremors, nausea, and more, due to withdrawal delirium. This condition is extremely difficult for an addict to surpass and can make extreme alcoholism more tempting for the individual. When a person begins to drink an unhealthy amount of alcohol, they may lose plenty of thiamine, also known as vitamin B. This vitamin helps decompose carbohydrates in the digestive tract in order to distribute the nutrition to all necessary places. Without it, the body begins to break down and develop Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, or more commonly referred to as wet brain. Wet brain syndrome involves a grand loss in brain activity and intelligence. Symptoms include severe confusion, decline of motor coordination, and issues relating to speech. Another long-term effect is dementia. Dementia, in simpler terms, is extreme memory loss that could never be retained again due to the permanently destroyed hippocampus. Approximately 1 in every 12 adults have suffered from alcohol dependency in the United States. But according to Mukamal's study in 2016, along with Hart and Kasser in 2015, alcohol is considered to have a moderate potential to hook addicts. But it is not always black and white when it comes to substance abuse. This drug, much like many others, has a genetic factor involved with a person's likelihood of addiction. In respect to their diathesis stress model, genetic vulnerability plays a large role when it comes to rolling the dice with addiction. Here's a photo to simplify the explanation for susceptibility and the diathesis stress model. The girl in blue is much closer to adapting schizophrenia just by sheer chance. But in the lower part of the photo, you can see that there are other individuals that are even closer to the condition, such as the boy in brown. He is considered to be more susceptible to the disease than any other character due to his genetic background. Although there is no such thing as an addictive gene, it is simply just a certain tolerance that an individual can consume before succumbing to an unhealthy lifestyle. It is sort of like a game of luck or misfortune. It probably doesn't help that many religions and cultures welcome alcohol into celebrations, traditions, and social gatherings, especially among young people. For instance, Christians as young as 8 years of age are allowed to partake in communion wine to respect their beliefs. And in Shinto, followers participate in drinking sake in order to have a bountiful harvest. Tolerance and vulnerability vary from country to country. In addition, the easy accessibility people have to alcohol is encouraging for many who are susceptible to addiction. A case study I found was Thomas Smith, who is a 41-year-old man who's working as a financial firm partner. The anxious environment has led Thomas to late-night drinking and chronic dependency to alcohol. Thomas has been seen intoxicated in the workplace and around his children. He has attempted to stop his unhealthy habit on multiple occasions, but have concluded that he cannot do it on his own. His wife urged him to join a treatment plan. Agreeing, he received a team to consult his problems and join a multi-step therapy process. Thomas was placed in a residential facility for a month with improvement. Afterward, he met with several therapists that specialize in substance abuse and combating addiction with mental tools. Afterward, his wife and children were brought into family therapy to reconstruct the foundations of everyday life without alcohol. Mrs. Smith has accounted that she refused to enable her husband. At last, Thomas remained sober for several months before being put in a chronically stressful situation at work. This caused him to unfortunately relapse. Almost immediately, Thomas found the effort to reach out to his therapists and get back on the right track. So far, Thomas has reached success with his sobriety and has found confidence in maintaining abstinence. A few things I've learned by creating this presentation is how detrimentally damaging alcohol can be to the body, yet it is endorsed publicly in multiple instances and socially acceptable. Many young people are allowing alcohol into their system because of its easy accessibility, thus filling up their cup for addiction exposure. Yet it is not as looked down upon as heroin or any other psychoactive drug. For me, one of the most interesting facts is how the breathalyzer tests work. The alcohol, once it's already into the bloodstream, gets disposed in the lungs, where the vaporized version resides. Once exhaled onto the tool, the screen can detect the amount of estimated alcohol consumed. In conclusion, alcohol can become a nasty pest that has the possibility of ruining the entirety of someone's social life, biological well-being, and neural health. But in this day and age, no individual can seize the exposure that they will face in their lifetime. But it is simply a matter of self-control, reliable research, and awareness that could stray somebody from alcoholism.